practice. I loved it. Okay, watch it. Ron's got us on tape now.
That's right. Careful what you say.
Yeah, Glenn.
I thought it was an improvement on my looks.
It might have been. We haven't taken a full vote yet. We're working on it, but
Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't super hot out today, but being out on that track at practice and that turf, it's usually a good 10 or 15 degrees warmer
Well,
when
you're
you're on.
like Thursday for sure.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it was only like 78 or 79, but like, I mean, I had to go let my athletes go in the shade for a while.
Yeah,
And I mean, it felt like it was like, 90 some odd degrees out there. Biggest problem is we're just not used to the heat.
that's true. Did you see this morning how foggy it was?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad here, but I always remember my drives when I was teaching at Northwest down driving out in Jefferson County, and you got those huge hills out there, and you'd come down the hill and you'd go into the fog before you came back out again after a while.
I could barely see the house out across the street. It was really foggy.
you live here in the city, don't you, Ron?
Well, Afton,
Yeah. I mean, as opposed to rural, you live in town.
yeah. John's bringing graham crackers.
I just got a message from my father. He says he probably won't be able to make it because they have had no connectivity since earlier this afternoon.
Huh. Does he connect through like AT&T or something like that?
I don't know who they use. I'm sure it's whatever the local stuff in, Costa Rica is. I don't
Yeah.
know. So, yeah, it feels like it's been a while since I've seen some of you guys because I wasn't here last month. I was at a track meet.
That's right. The track meet was then.
Yeah. I have track meets so many nights, it's hard to remember. They just they all run together after a while this time of year.
When does
Bad
the
pun.
season
That's
start
a bad
and
pun.
stop?
What's that, Lyman?
That's a bad pun. They all run together at a
Uh,
track meet.
It was unintended.
Yes. Clearly, had it been intended, you would have had a higher grade pun worked out somehow.
Lyman, I'm so tired I could just go to sleep sitting in this chair right now. And since I coach javelin, I would have asked if you got the point. Ugh. So yesterday we had our conference championship meet on Friday, but it was over at Webster Groves, and they used the same field for discus and javelin, so we couldn't
Oh,
throw both. So we were supposed to do javelin separately on Thursday afternoon, but it rained and it's on the grass there, so we couldn't do it. So then it was going to be moved to yesterday, Monday. Well, then they moved it over to Ladue High School, who actually has a track surface for a runway.
right.
Except that on the right hand sector line is right where the woods are. Here's the line, and there's the woods right on the line, which is very odd. One of my guys throws the jab and he kind of doesn't follow through and he lets go of it out here and he puts it right into a tree. I mean, the point goes into the trunk.
Yeah.
Never seen that before.
If he if he'd been a few millennia back, he could have skinned it and had it for dinner.
There you go. Well, I like to think that if anything bad ever happens, I'm there with my jab throwers. We're, ready to
Yeah,
go.
really.
Now, I thought you retired.
I retired from teaching, but I still coach track and field.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I just don't do it at the school that I coached at. I now do it at Parkway Central. And I coach pole vaulters and javelin throwers.
Oh, you were doing runners.
Yeah, I also coached
Mostly
javelin.
what you did was long distance runners.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I've coached a little bit all over the years. So now I do things with sticks. Steve Maynard,
Sure.
I think see Mark here, was that who you were talking with in the emails?
Yes. Yeah, I just noticed. Hello, Mark. Welcome.
Yeah, hi. Hi. So I
Welcome.
used to, thanks. I used to attend these meetings a really long time ago when it was at St. Louis University, and I would go there. The main purpose was to get some floppy disks to install some software on my, what did I have at the time? A Power Macintosh 5300, long time ago. And then I got away from that, even though I've been a software developer and worked on Macs pretty much my whole career. And so I recently retired like 2 months ago. And
Congratulations.
I strangely took an interest in HyperCard. I never used HyperCard back when I was using older Macs, but I started looking into it and found it kind of fascinating. And so now I'm on this journey to see, could I reproduce HyperCard as a web app? And so I acquired an iMac G3 so that I could run HyperCard and really experience it. And so I've restored this iMac G3 and relearning about Mac OS 9 so I can play around on that machine. And
Look at Carl laughing. He got one or two of my old Power Macs number of years ago. I had forgotten that, and I remember you came over and got them. And
Yeah,
you must have a garage full of antiquity, my friend.
well, the oldest machine I have working is a 9600 running 8.1.
yeah, yeah. So I'm trying to upgrade this machine a little bit. I tried to put more RAM in it, and I got some RAM sticks, and they didn't work. I got them from OWC, and so they're sending me some new ones. We'll see if those work. But I'm also considering trying to replace the hard drive with an SSD. So maybe I'll do that in the next month or so.
It's funny when you look at the amount of RAM that those old machines took.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this one has 128 meg and it can go up to a gig. I can put a whole gig in there with two 512 sticks. So that's what I'm planning to do. But for the software that runs on that machine and for Mac OS 9, I guess that actually is a lot of memory.
Trying to think, when did HyperCard quit being produced?
Uh, yeah.
About the time that OS 10 got going, as I recall.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
right. And from what I understand, Steve Jobs kind of explicitly killed it, which looking at it now, I really feel that was a mistake.
I do too.
Yeah.
I learned HyperCard at work, and I thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
And when subsequent operating systems came out that wouldn't run it, well, I just had to give it up. But I had a HyperCard 2.0 manual, big thick book, and I devoured that thing, and I could get my computer to do just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So I have this now, HyperCard 2.2 Complete Reference Manual
There you go.
from Danny Goodman. And this thing is really thick. It's 640 pages, and this
Yep.
is just volume one. There's another part to it that I don't have yet.
HyperCard could have been the first search engine. It, I mean,
Yeah.
it was ahead of its time, and if they'd stayed with it, they would have been miles ahead of
Yeah.
Google and DuckDuckGo and you name
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I just dropped a link in the chat. It's sort of my habit that whenever I learn anything, it goes into my blog. And that link just goes to my blog. And there's a lot of different topics in the hamburger menu, but the relevant ones for this discussion, there's one for iMac G3, which shows pictures of the computer that I got and goes through some of the steps I took to restore the thing. And then there's a link for HyperCard with all the notes I've taken on HyperCard so far. And that's there so that I want to make sure I really understand it before I try to re-implement the thing as a web app.
Well, that would be cool. I would look forward to seeing that if you're able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. I imagine this is like a 1 to 2 year effort to get anything reasonable going, but we'll see.
Well, talking about old software, some of the old stuff that I've got, I run in Sheep Shaver under, uh,
Yeah.
let's see, what do I got? I'm up to Mojave now.
Yeah, yeah. I started playing around in Sheep Shaver, and I was just having some issues where it would kind of randomly crash sometimes, and I think I wasn't getting the full HyperCard experience, a lot of it, but not all of it. And that's what pushed me to go ahead and see if I could purchase an iMac G3, which I got for $200.
Mark, I do intend to look at your blog, but if you don't mind, tell us right now which iMac G3 model you got.
Yeah, it's the summer of 2000 model. It has a 500 megahertz processor. It's the graphite one, so
Oh,
it's
yes.
like
Okay.
the most transparent one
Yeah.
to see the guts of it. Yeah,
No cooling fans.
right. No cooling fans.
I used to work at a CompUSA store out in Sunset Hills, and I sold those.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so I'm fairly familiar with it. Getting on the inside of it is a little bit more difficult than the Bondi Blue model was. So I don't know that I'd be able to. I think I could get into a Bondi Blue model even at this day and update the RAM because I did that for several computers at the school where my wife teaches
Yeah.
a long time ago. But getting into the model like that one is a bit tougher.
Well, on this model, there's a door that gives you to the RAM slots, and so you don't even have to disassemble the case to put the RAM in.
But I mean, to do like what you were talking about, like with an SSD
Oh,
drive,
yeah,
that
yeah.
would be a bit of a challenge.
Exactly. I did have to take the bottom of the case off to replace the PRAM battery, which was almost completely dead. Uh, yeah,
Still a 1/2 AA.
yeah, it is. Yes. Yeah. So there's pictures of what I took apart to do that on that blog page, and it shows that battery.
I had a G4 tower, well, maybe around that same time or maybe a little later, that had that same PRAM battery, so I know it well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Ron, we seem to have very few people here tonight, but it is
Oh, it is
7:00.
time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will
Well, like
start.
I said, I know my dad had connectivity issues, so he won't be joining us.
Yeah. John's here. John's Connor. Wave John is our president. Steve Maynard is first vice president. Glenn House is second VP. Alan's not here yet. He's our treasurer, and I'm the secretary. We have sad news. Do you remember Al DeRocher? He's a
Yeah.
former member, and we found out just recently that he passed away last July. He was our member at large, and he usually dealt with new members that came in when we used to be in Parkway. Let's see, upcoming meetings.
I would say he would be the third of our former members that I'm aware of that has passed in the last year or so.
Yeah, that's true.
Somebody's joining. Who's that?
iPhone.
iPhone, I don't know. Upcoming meetings in June, it's WWDC, so all the things in June meeting, we'll hopefully explain whatever comes out at that meeting in June. The membership award program continues. I'm copying down people's names now. And let's see. Special note, let's see. Does anybody have a tip or trick or even a question for the group?
Well, I'm curious who iPhone is.
Yeah. Hello, iPhone. Please identify yourself. Okay, this is a little spooky.
Okay, well,
We'll see later.
all right.
So tonight we'll have Glenn, his goodies. Steve will present on numbers, and then we'll have a thing about Apple Intelligence. So, Glenn, do you ready to start?
Sure. All right, let me pull this up here. All right. Why am I... All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
Glenn's
Okay.
goodies.
Tulips.
For some reason, I've lost all of you here, though. Hold on a second. Let me stop this and reshare. Then I can figure out where I'm at on here. Okay, that'll work better. Okay, so my May goodies. I saw this little tidbit. I don't know when I saw this about a week ago or a couple weeks ago. I saw this, and so I know that there's a lot of controversy about the screen notch on the MacBook, and people are complaining about it. Honestly, it doesn't really bother me. I've never been bothered by that stuff on the phone or on my MacBook Pro. But there is a solution if you have items that get covered by that. So Apple included a setting called scale to fit below built-in camera. And what it'll do is it'll move your app below the notch in full screen mode. So if you go into full screen mode, and by the way, this doesn't necessarily work with every piece of software, but what it'll do is like your notch that sits at the top, it'll just move the software slightly below that. Basically, you want to make sure the app that you want to do for this, you have to quit that app. Then you go in your applications folder and select the app. And then you have to get info on the app. Command I or file get info will get you there. And once you do that, there's a little box that you're going to check there, scale to fit below built-in camera. And so you want to check that box next to it, and that's going to enable it so that it will sit right below that the notch on there. Now, like I said, it doesn't work for every piece of software, but it will work for some. So, that really annoys you, then you can go do this to get that to kind of work around the notch, if you will. By the way, you have to make sure that you're in full screen mode for this to work. So, click that little green button up in the upper left corner of the piece of software. And then, like I said, it'll sit right there. Okay, Apple Notes links. I don't know how many of you use Apple Notes much, and I know you guys have heard me talk about Apple Notes. I consider myself a power user, and I use Apple Notes all the time. Like I use it. I bet I'm in Apple Notes at least a dozen times a day, and it's kind of helped me eliminate, pencil and paper and all that. And so I don't know if I can say it's my most used app, but it's certainly one of my most used apps that I use on both my, on all my devices, phone, iPad, MacBook. And so I'm always kind of looking for new innovations and things I can do with this. Like I'll sit with my iPad and my Apple Pencil and I take notes with it oftentimes. I draw even in Apple Notes. I'll make little, doodles of things and whatever. For my coaching, I used to carry a clipboard with me out there Not anymore. Everything, I've got all these notes for things that I can just access in my phone while I'm out at track meets. As I had here, I said, at last count, I have 204 notes that I keep and use. So that's quite a lot of it. But some of the problem with all these notes, you got to be organized, or it's like good luck finding stuff. Long ago I set up folders. Now you can nest things in the most recent system, so that's great. But one of the new features, and I don't know if you guys know about this, but you can link notes to one another. And so I've set this up so that if I have notes on a similar topic, I'll put the link to the other note on a note where I can just press that link, and then boom, it takes me over to the other note that I need. And so it allows me to easily switch up between notes of similar topics. So I'm going to show you guys how you can insert links in your notes. So first thing you want to do is, open a note that you want to insert the link in, and anywhere in that note, you're simply going to type, and you can see there in the quotes, two little of the, greater than, less than, I guess, symbols. I don't know. What are we, is there a name for those actually? Anybody know if there's a specific name for those things? I don't know. Anyway, so you type those two, you type it twice, and a drop down list appears. So, and you select the note you want. So you will see, if you look on my left hand note there, my Parkway Central pole vaulters, you will see that I put in a little link there, and then it takes me to my pole vault practice plan progression. Well, to do this, I type those two little symbols, those two little, like I said, greater than, less than symbols, and up came notes that I have, just some of my notes. And then you just have to go and click the note you want, and it will automatically then link you to that. And so now you see in my original note at the bottom there, I've got a couple different links that when I, just press on those, it'll take me to the other note. And so I find this real handy, like I said, because it allows me to jump between notes of similar topics that I might want to use. You can link to any number of notes. I don't know if there's a limit on how many links you can put, but anyway, I just find this real handy. So if you're an Apple Notes user, this is something that's kind of new that is a handy little thing to have.
Quick question, Glenn, if you don't mind.
Yep.
Are you saving those notes in iCloud?
Yes.
And so if you bring up a note, say you create them mostly on the iPad. So if you were to bring up one of those notes on your Mac, let's say, are the links to the notes going to also be visible on the Mac? I'm guessing yes, because you store them in iCloud, but I'm not sure.
I create notes on all my devices. It just depends on what device I'm on when I do it. The only real problem, John, that I find I have is formatting, because the note on the phone only has so much real estate, your phone screen.
Yeah.
Whereas on my Mac, I can open it, in full screen. And so I try to be mindful of not reformatting on my Mac, because then when I pull out my phone, it's really jumbled and hard to read. So I try to kind of keep it in the format for my phone. And then I just sort of make do on my other devices. But yeah, and that way I can open them wherever, and this stuff works. You'll notice in that original note I have there, the pole vaulters one, you'll see at the top I have a Google Doc I have linked there, so I can go and open a Google Doc if I want. I've also got links to my other notes. You also notice, see where it says 2024 there? You will see the little like chevron next to it there. And if you click that, there's a drop that'll drop down because stuff is nested in there as well. So I do a lot of formatting to my notes to make them, much more readable and user friendly. And like I said, I do a ton. So if you're using Apple Notes and you start using a lot of notes, I highly recommend, organizing these things and you making use of some of this stuff. Because they're really, I think Apple Notes is one of the more unappreciated pieces of software that Apple has. There are a lot of uses for it that I think people they don't even think about, and instead they go right to word processing programs or whatever. And I've got notes that have spreadsheets in them, and all kinds of different things in there, and it's really useful. And I like to be able to you know pull up stuff on my phone on the go, or I can pull it up on my computer wherever I'm at. So big fan of Apple Notes.
Same here.
One other quick question or
Yeah.
comment. Mark Volkman in particular, are you seeing a similarity to what Glenn has just described to HyperCard? You're muted.
Yeah. Somewhat, I guess the difference with HyperCard is that you're able to write code that is behind all of these things. So when you click a button, there can be all kind of things that are happening, and you can be computing things. You can have inputs where you're entering things like today I was messing around with entering a principal amount and an interest rate and a number of periods and computing compounded interest. I don't think that's a thing that you would attempt to do with notes. So it seems like notes is really more for documentation and not for computing things. Would you agree with that, Glenn?
Well, I would say to some extent, although now that they have these, I'm blanking all of a sudden. What did Apple call it? Their smart math. What's that called? They just came out with in the last.
Freeform?
No. Man, I'm blanking on the name. Somebody help me. Like if I do a program in Notes and I put equals, it'll automatically figure, the math program. But it just came out last year, and it's something math, but I can't think of what Apple calls it. And I guess nobody is thinking of this in their head, but it allows you in different programs now that you can put an equation and it automatically solves for it. So there are some things you can do in Notes, but while I've never pushed it very far, like what Mark was talking about, trying to do any of that stuff, you can do some stuff.
Yeah. Glenn, is there any way that you could, once you've developed a bunch of notes and then you decide, oh, I bet a bunch of people would be interested in this, is there any easy way to take your notes and make them available on the web?
There is, and I'd have to get out of here to go find it. I found, yes, there is a way to publish them as simple web pages, and I can't remember what it's called, but in order for me to go find that, I'd have to get out of this. So later on, maybe when like Steve is presenting, I'll try to look that up for you, and then I can show you a way to do that.
Yeah, that's really the one thing that has stopped me from getting into notes is that I feel like if I'm going to take the time to document something well, I'm probably going to want to share it with people. And so
Yeah.
what I've ended up doing for my blog is that it's all written using Markdown, and all the Markdown files are in a GitHub repository. And when I push changes out to it, it automatically publishes to GitHub pages. That was quite a task to get all that automation set up. And I'd rather use something like Notes if I could easily share everything with other people on the web. So that's something I'm really interested in.
Yeah, there was something I came across last year that I started using, and I even had it in one of my presentations that I did. But I'm sorry, I'm like just so exhausted from track lately, and then been out in the heat this afternoon. It's like my mind is blanking on trying to recall some of these things. So I'll find it for you when I have a chance to get out of this and go back and look, because I don't know why my brain is just not functioning tonight. So, all right, I'm going to move on from this unless there are any other questions. Okay. All right. I don't know how many of you do this. I did this a couple of years back when they first put it out, but do any of you have a recovery contact, set up so that like if you have a problem, you can get access to your iPhone or Apple account, or if something happens and you die, they're able to do something with your account. Has anybody done that?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if I did. I'm looking to see, do I have something like that? Where is this in the settings? Oh, sign
Well,
in.
I'm going to show you here how you do this. So,
Okay.
so if you haven't done it, I recommend it. Like I said, even something simple, if you just lose access to your Apple account or your iPhone, you can have somebody that obviously is a trusted person, and they can remotely like unlock your iPhone. something simple like that, or get into your Apple account. So here's how you set it up. Go into settings and press on your Apple account. So your account comes up and you see your name and your image there, and then press on sign in and security. And by the way, this could be different. I don't remember how it was set up when they first instituted this a couple of years ago. So this may have changed from then if you've done it. And then once you go into sign in and security, press on recovery contacts. And so you can see like there's a little one by mine because I already have one set up. So if you go and follow this along here and you see a number by recovery contacts, it means that you have set one up already.
Yeah, lucky me, I set it up with my wife as my contact.
And so now, and that's what mine is too. It's my wife. So now once you go into recovery contacts, you'll be in the screen and you can press add recovery contact. By the way, that white box, I just, because it's got some personal information there, so I covered that up. And so then you just add recovery contact. And then once you do that, you press, add recovery contact, and so it's going to ask you to then, you're basically going to send a text to this person is what you're doing. And it's a request to them asking, hey, will you be my recovery contact? And they have they can accept or decline. They're not forced into doing this, by the way. So they get the message, and then you can see that they either accept or decline. And once they choose one, then you'll get a message back telling you what they did. And once you do that, then they are going to be set up as that recovery contact. So it's a pretty simple way to do it, but I really recommend doing that. So that way, again, if you've got to get access to your account or something happens, like I said, and, one of us dies and there's somebody that can get access to the account. All right.
I have a question
about
recovery contact.
Yeah.
If if somebody stole your phone while you were using it, like say you were in a bar or restaurant or at a music event, and somebody stole your phone while it was unlocked, what decided they couldn't add themselves as a recovery contact to your account to later use your account in unscrupulous ways?
Well, I guess it's certainly possible, but then again, I would say the loss of my phone at that point would be my first concern. And now, you can use a different device to basically not allow them to get access to your device. So, and I'm trying to remember what Apple calls that now, but I told you, I'm sorry, guys. I'm really tired and my mind's blanking on names of things tonight. Does anybody remember what is the Apple emergency thing now that you can lock your phone out? Is there a special name for that? So like, if somebody stole it.
Stolen device, something.
Okay. Yeah. And so you can lock that and then they wouldn't be able to do any of this stuff.
I meant like if they did add themselves as a recovery contact, in the first few minutes they had your phone. Like they grab your phone from you, it's unlocked, they run off with it. While it's still unlocked, they add themselves as a recovery contact.
Well, I guess it's certainly possible. I mean, they would have to obviously keep the phone open so that it
for long enough to add themselves as a recovery contact.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that they could. I mean, I don't know. I would have to do further research on that. I can't answer that, but I would say, I'm not going to say it's not possible to happen, but on the other hand, I'm trying to think of what the odds that would be that I just happened to be sitting there with my phone open and somebody swiped my phone and did that, but I'm not saying it can't happen.
Whereas the alternative is you could leave your passwords in an encrypted file for a loved one inside your home.
Sure, you could. I mean, but to me, this is simple. And I wouldn't, again, I'm not going to say it can't happen, Terry, but on the other hand, it's not something I'm really too worried about. So, I guess that would be my answer. But yeah, you could go that route. I mean, if you don't you're not trusting of this, you can certainly do that. Leave that information for somebody else, in your family you trust that way.
I have a different variation of the question.
Okay.
Say you have your loved one is an emergency recovery contact in your phone.
Meaning
Yeah.
you're well,
No,
you're
no,
saying
you already-
you
no.
already have emergency. You're the recovery contact for a loved one. Is that what you're trying to say, Tammy?
I'm saying that you already set up your phone with a loved one has a recovery contact. So
Okay.
a thief steals your phone.
Right.
Can your loved one jump in there and prevent them from stealing your Apple ID?
My presumption would be that they are able to get access to your phone. I mean, so therefore they should be able to lock your phone out. Again, I can't remember what Apple calls this.
Glenn, I think it's called activation lock.
Okay. All right.
Look it up on the Apple support page, and it's got a description of it, how it works. I've never looked at it in detail, but I think you can activate your phone lock your phone remotely.
Right. Yeah, because that's the first thing I would do. If I was sitting there and somebody swiped my phone, that's the first thing I would do. Okay. There's a lot of stuff that Apple does not just they kind of hide and bury in accessibility. And I realize that there are a million things they could probably do on an iPhone, but sometimes I don't really understand why they hide this stuff in iPhone accessibility. And most people don't even know it's there unless you're digging around to find it. And so I happen to be looking at something, and it made me think of some of the accessibility features, because even though I don't necessarily need some of the accessibility features, I go turn some of these things on because I find them, handy to use. So speaking of handy, the first one I'll share with you there is to be able to reach the top of your screen with one hand, especially if you have a larger phone like I do. It's not always easy when you're holding your phone to reach up just with one hand. If you only have one hand accessible, and so there is a feature that they call reachability, and it will move the top of the screen down and make it easier to reach with your thumb. It actually should be turned on by default, but if it isn't, here's how you can turn this on. So go into your settings app, scroll down to accessibility. And once you go into accessibility, scroll down to the physical and motor section, which is just a little ways down it's the second little block of things there, and press on touch. And once you go under touch, turn on reachability. And so what this does, it allows you to basically with one hand pull that down. And you guys might have done it by accident or seen that where your screen comes halfway down your iPhone screen, the top of it. Have any of you ever seen that or triggered that maybe accidentally? And so you will find it there, and then you're able to reach things if you can only use one hand with with just using your thumb. And so it's kind of nice to have on that, if it ever happens, that you're able to basically reach that with one hand. The second thing, and I think this is a little more well known, but I don't know how many of you take advantage of it. I think this has been around maybe for 2, 3, 4 years now. Back tap, because like I said, it's not new. It's been around, but there's something called back tap, and it lets you tap on the back of your phone either 2 times or 3 times, and that'll trigger the action that you set up, whatever it is. There's a whole bunch of them you can set up. So go into accessibility and press on touch, and at the bottom you're going to find something called back tap. Once you're in touch, it's all the way at the bottom. And then when you go to back tap, you click in there, and then it'll show you 2 things for double tap and triple tap. And, when you do each one separately, because you can have 2 separate actions that you'll trigger by doing this. And I don't have all of them here on the screen. You can scroll down. There's a whole bunch of actions that you can trigger by doing this. So, and literally just on the back of your phone, it's just 2 quick taps on the back of your phone, or triple tapping it will then do whatever it is you have set up. Like you can see here, I have a triple tap automatically turns my flashlight on. Even though I know I can easily go on my phone or it's on the screen where I can press it, it's just boom, 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 and my flashlight's on. That's real easy, especially if, like, it's the middle of the night and I need a flashlight or something. Um, you know, and I typically put things there that I want to be able to access quickly. And so, like you can see, my double tap is the Shazam shortcut, because sometimes I'm just sitting there, I'm like, man, what's that song? I want who plays it? It's on the radio or it's on a TV show, and I can just boom, boom, double tap on my phone, and it brings up Shazam to start listening for something. But there's, gosh, I don't know, 30 or 40 or 50 different things you can trigger that are set up if you go in and do this. Okay, the third one, spoken content. If you turn on the spoken content feature, your iPhone will read to you. And so what the iPhone will do is it'll read everything that's on your screen. And so there are times where this is pretty useful, like if you're driving or maybe you're cooking and you don't have any hands available, or just whatever, your hands and your eyes aren't available and you want to trigger this. So again, go into accessibility and go into the vision section and select spoken content. So accessibility is set up in blocks. And so, like, if you look here at this screenshot that I shared here, like you can see there's a block for vision, there's a block for physical and motor. And so they set this up so it's easier to find stuff. Well, under the vision section, just do spoken content, click on that. And then when you go in speak screen, turn that on. And when it's turned on, there are 2 ways to activate it that it'll speak for you. You can swipe down from the top of the screen with 2 fingers, or it's pretty simple. Just ask Siri to speak this screen, and it will speak whatever's on the screen. Although I warn you, that includes like headers and other things like that as well. So it's not just going to sense, oh, there's an article here, and I'm just going to do the article. It's whatever is on the screen, it'll start speaking to you. But that's kind of handy just to have, because like I said, there are times maybe that your eyes and and hands aren't available, and so you just want to have it speak to you. So anyway, those are just, by the way, let me say this, there are dozens of accessibility features. Those are just 3 that I happen to think are kind of cool to be able to use, but there are a lot more. So if you guys are ever playing around, if you've never done this, go into the accessibility settings in your phone and just kind of look through there and look at some of the stuff, because you might find things in there that would be very useful for you. All right, next thing I want to talk about is the move ring versus the exercise ring. What's the difference? And I started thinking about this and doing a little research on it, because my wife and I will be talking about our rings. Well, how come this one closed and that one didn't? I don't, it's like, man, I've been moving all over the place. I've been exercising. Why isn't my move ring closed, but my exercise ring is? And I've had that happen many times. And so I was interested in looking at it, and I thought I'd share this with you. So I'm just going to read a little here. Many people check their rings during the day and work on closing them each day. While the stand ring is self-explanatory, the move and exercise rings may be a little confusing. If you stand for at least a minute continuously, you get credit for standing during that hour. We all know we shouldn't sit around on our butts all day. However, the move and exercise rings are more complicated. So what's the difference? Apple defines movement exercise differently. The move ring tracks the active calories you burn through various movements. They can be small or large movements. And if you wear an Apple Watch, movements of your wrist will contribute to your red movement ring. So like if I'm doing something and I'm moving my wrist, that will contribute to moving. And it's all about the calories you're burning while you do this. And so, your green exercise ring only gets added to when your heart rate goes above a certain threshold. And that threshold, by the way, it's going to vary between all of us because it's based on your age and your resting heart rate. And the data that they get from this comes from your health app in your iPhone and on your Apple Watch. So to get progress credit for progress towards your exercise goal, the activity app identifies activity that equals or exceeds the intensity of a brisk walk. Now, again, that's a little subjective because what is a brisk walk? Well, that's going to depend on your heart rate and who you are. And by the way, you can't change this requirement. That's just something that Apple builds in. And so it's going to apply whenever you're doing anything. I mean, frankly, you don't have to necessarily be doing a brisk walk for exercise. I mean, you could be carrying a laundry basket up and down the stairs or, going up and down stairs, just doing chores or something. And if it gets your heart rate up and hits the requirement for you, it'll, if you do it enough, it'll start into the exercise. And so exercise credit is awarded for each minute that you meet this requirement that your heart rate is, at that threshold. So you got to do it for a minute to get credit for that exercise. So, if I just go up one flight of stairs and then I stop and rest, I'm probably not getting credit, for any kind of exercise. But if I keep walking up and down the stairs for a minute and it gets my heart rate up, then I probably will. Sometimes during a workout, you may not get credit for exercise for the minute if you're only meeting that requirement for part of the minute and your arm movements aren't resulting in your activity being tracked accurately. I've had that before where I've been out on a run or I've been doing something and I'm like, well, why didn't I get credit for that? I was completely exercising, but for some reason it just thought that, I wasn't. So, I have gotten some weird results. So there are times I question its accuracy, but that's what it's doing. That's what it's trying to track. And again, as I say here, the definition of a brisk walk is going to vary. It really depends on your personal information, your age, your history, and the more, the better the shape you're in and the lower the age and the lower your resting heart rate is, the higher that threshold is going to be to trigger your exercise. So if you're somebody that never gets off the couch, you never exercise, you're 250 years old and you weigh 3,000 pounds, probably lifting your finger would get that going. But, it's just going to depend on who you are and what you do. All right. So by the way, any questions on that? The difference between the move and the exercise room?
Yeah, I'll throw out another tip related to this. I have a spinning bike that I use quite often, and it does not capture any of this data, but of course I want to get credit for it. And I've figured out that if I ride the bike for an hour and I go 20 miles on the bike, that's 850 calories. And so I go into the health app, go into workouts, tap add data, and then you can manually add it, and then it shows up in your rings.
Thanks, Mark. I knew about that. I've never personally done it. So it's nice to know that it actually does work.
Yeah, it takes maybe 15 seconds for it to show up in your rings. It's not immediate, but it shows up.
Okay. Yeah, I know people who have tried to take like their watch off like the watch bands and mount it on a bike to get it to do stuff. But the problem is, especially if you've got a watch on, it really is arm and wrist movement and stuff that it's looking for. So, I don't want to say there's flaws in the system, but there are flaws in the system a little bit. Like you said, if you're sitting on a stationary bike, now what it usually is looking for is your heart rate, but there are times where it may not always pick everything up. So it is nice that, yeah, like Mark said, you can add it manually. And you know what, Mark? I appreciate you adding that in. I probably should have put that in here, how to do that. So maybe another time, throw that in my goodies.
There are,
And I guess one other note is that there are default goals that it has for you for all the rings, but you can change those. Like you can make them higher if you want to shoot for a higher goal.
Yeah. I used to keep those higher. I've been lowering them a little as I get older.
Yeah.
And what
And
would
somebody
happen
else,
if what would happen if you strapped your watch around your ankle?
Yeah.
well, here's the thing. My guess, I've never tried this. So one, I'd have to have a much bigger, band, but my guess is as long as your leg and foot are moving, I'm guessing it would pick up on that. And you can get a heart rate, you can get a pulse down there through your ankle. So I don't know. Anybody ever tried it?
Yeah, Glenn, I used to attach one to my ankle when I was in a therapy situation on a bike.
Mm-hmm.
Get inside my sock. But
Okay.
that was a different iteration of phone. I mean of a watch. So
Okay.
nowadays I choose independent exercise, or I choose, what is it called? Functional strength training. If I don't do that, I sometimes it misses the exercise. I don't get it
Right.
from it.
I go, man, I think often, oh, I got to get into better shape when I'm just doing something. I'm walking around. Maybe I'm at a track meet. I'm walking between events or something, and the watch comes on. Are you exercising? And I'm thinking, man, I got to get into better shape if it thinks I'm exercising just for doing that. Or I'm carrying a laundry basket across the house or something. I'm like, man, I got to get in better shape if it thinks I'm exercising. All right. Speaking of Apple Watch, there are some tasks, some things you can do on the Apple Watch that really are very simple that I think a lot of people don't stop and think about. And I realize not everybody wears an Apple Watch. So, I've worn one for quite a while now, but there are some things that, you know, Apple makes it real easy, never have to pull out your phone, and they don't require any third party software to do. So, first one is map directions. Most of us, and honestly, I got to tell you, I don't, every now and then I use map directions on my watch, but for the most part, it's usually I'm looking at my phone and because it's just the bigger screen and everything. But it really works pretty well on your watch. So like if you want directions, and it can be, cycling, running, driving, walking, whatever you're doing, the haptics on the watch are really nice when turns are coming up. I know, like even when I put it in my iPhone and I'm driving, and you get the haptic feedback on your watch when a turn's coming up. That's nice if that way I don't even have to look at a screen. So to do this, just open the Maps app on your Apple Watch, and so it looks. You can see there I've got the little red box around what the icon looks like, and it'll show you the little map of your area where you are at the time when you open that. And this was my watch. I just took screenshots of this. And so I told it, okay, I want to go over to Vlasis Park near where I live. And you can see it gave the map and then showed the directions there. And it was really easy to do just right on my watch without ever, and then it's right there and I don't have to pull out my phone. So map directions work pretty well with the watch. The second thing is, I don't know how many people know that there is a flashlight on your watch. Do you guys all remember that?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen that.
Some will say yes, but it's, because think of, I'm guilty of this. I'll need a light and I pull out my phone and I forget, oh, you know what? I could have just used my wrist. And so now it's not going to be as powerful as your phone because it's a smaller, less powerful device, but it works great if you need a light just in a small area. And so just go into your control center, press the side button, it takes you to your control center, and click on the flashlight icon in the control center. By the way, if you don't see the icon in there, scroll to the bottom of control center, press edit, and then just add the button. And so you can see a picture there. I mean, that's the flashlight on my watch that's on. I probably should have done that, not taking that picture while the light was on though, so you could better see how it looks in the dark. But it's been useful. Like if I'm just, need to look in a drawer, the light, it's the middle of the night or something, and I don't want to, wake people by turning lights on. So it's handy. It's right there on the watch. And I think sometimes you just forget that it's there. Timers. Timers are real easy to do on a watch, and it's real convenient. I just did this, yesterday a couple times. I guess, Sunday evening, we were at my in-laws and doing a barbecue. And my wife said, hey, would you start a timer for whatever? And then I just, did it right on my watch. I mean, I asked the S lady to do that, but it was real simple. So, I mean, you can ask the S lady to do it, or as you can see here, you can go into the timers app, and then they have like some preset timers for like 1, 3, 5, and 10 minutes. And you can tap on one of those. They also show you recently used ones in there if you scroll down. You can also create your own. You can make your custom ones for whatever time you want. And so, you can see it right there on your watch. The nice thing is you can also have multiple timers running at one time on the watch. So, it's just real easy. And then again, it's not something you ever have to get your phone out for. So if you want to learn more about it, I do have a link here. That Apple has a nice little on their support page, a guide for watch timers. But that's just real simple thing and it works well. The only time, by the way, if I use S Lady that I find that it's a pain is if I have too many of my devices sitting next to me. It's, well, which one's going to go off with the S Lady? Or is it going to be one of my son's or wife's devices nearby? So that's the only thing that I hate about that. Like I was standing in my kitchen yesterday and I wanted my watch to do something. And I said, hey, S Lady. And then all of a sudden I hear it coming from my son's iPad in the next room. So I'm like, I canceled that. And then I went around the corner and then I spoke real softly into my watch. So my watch did it, not the other device in the other room. So, all right. Apple Pay. Do a lot of you use Apple Pay on a watch?
No, I'd like to know how to do it.
Okay. Well, I I know this is going to sound really stupid and petty, but I get annoyed if I have to pull my wallet out anymore to actually get a physical credit card out. Even though I don't even want to have to pull my phone out to do it. I just do it on my watch all the time. Because it's just so easy. I have my watch on, I just put it there and I do it. So to do it, your side button, which is the flat button on your Apple Watch, you just double press it in quick succession, and your credit cards that you have set up will pop up. And then you just scroll down, select the card you want, and you hold your watch above the card reader, and bam, you listen for the beep, and it'll say done, and you've made your payment. By the way, this is also great. You can do this for tickets to events, because like now, if you go to a concert or you go to a game, there are no physical tickets anymore. Everything, is digital. So it's right there. And so, I can have my concert ticket or my sports ticket or whatever. Or if you have like, gift cards or a card that you use, maybe you're going to Starbucks and you have your Starbucks card or whatever it is, you've got that stuff in there. Now you set those up on your iPhone, by the way. If you haven't set up your credit cards, you got to do that through your iPhone, and then you allow it on your watch and they're right there. And so once they're set up, it's just so easy. And like, I can't get my wife to do it. She refuses to do this. She refuses to put credit cards in her iPhone. And I don't know. She's like, no, I just want to use my credit card. And I'm like, okay. But I mean, it's pretty rare almost these days that I actually pull out a wallet and get a physical credit card out there. There are places, and in my mind, I'm annoyed that I actually have to reach into my pocket, get my wallet out, pull out the credit card. And I'm like, oh my God, I mean, come on. So yeah, definitely Apple Pay is like the greatest thing to me. So I love that.
Glenn?
Yeah.
I've double clicked my Apple Watch, but nothing, the credit card doesn't come up. A whole bunch of other stuff does.
Did you do the flat, like rectangular sort of button, not the crown?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the flat
The
long
side
button. Double click. That's the side button.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Did they come up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all you got to do is hold it over the card reader. Although I will tell you this, sometimes when they have those little readers there, you sometimes have to find the place where it actually shows the little symbol where the reader is. Because on some of them, I will find if you put it like in a different part of the reader, it doesn't always read it. You have to get it like over the top of it, and make sure that you do it face down, your Apple Watch face toward the reader. because if you don't do it and you just do it up, it's not going to read it most of the time.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, Glenn, I find myself in your wife's camp. I don't use Apple Pay, but
Okay.
but what I've discovered is that with the last update to iOS on my iPhone, it now demands that I set up Apple Pay.
Well, it's funny. And so my wife, you get your little badges in your phone. It's always there. Finish setting this up.
Yep.
Yeah, like the little badge is just yelling at you, making fun of you because you haven't done it,
Well, it's not only the badge, but I get notifications on the sleep screen. I pick up my phone and look, what are the notifications? Oh, it's reminding me again about Apple Pay. That's
it's Apple Pay shaming you.
yes.
I think Apple Pay is great.
I
Well,
love
it probably is, and my daughter has used it on 2 of her trips to Europe, and it's been very handy over there.
Well, from what I understand, it's actually more secure than actually, pulling out a physical card and using it.
Probably.
So, I mean, I'm no expert on like encryption and financial transactions, but that's from what I've read and understand. That's what I get, that it's more secure. So, but you know what? To each their own. Hey, if you just want to carry around cash, go ahead, but you're not going to be able to pay in some places. It's funny, every now and then my wife will put cash in my wallet like I'm getting an allowance, and it might be months go by and that same $20 bill that she gave me is still sitting there in my wallet because it's so rare that I use cash anymore. All right, so anyway, there you go, some handy things you can do on your watch. All right, so there is a software program called BlueStacks Air, and I don't know if any of you play games and stuff, but it's not a revelation to anybody that there are a lot of games that you can't play on Mac OS. It's never been thought of as a huge gaming platform. And so there is a piece of software called BlueStacks Air that you load. And once you have it on your computer, you can open up and play like all kinds of different games and stuff. And as I'll read here, BlueStacks Air works by translating mobile game packages from Android. It optimizes them for Apple Silicon and even supports Vulkan, allowing for smooth gameplay and sharp graphics. They'll look stunning on your Mac's Retina display. And I have done this. I played with BlueStacks Air, and I got to tell you, there are games that I've loaded through there that actually run faster and smoother through the BlueStacks Air app than they do natively on my Mac. And that kind of blew me away. By the way, Vulkan I mentioned there, I'll read down here. Vulkan's a high performance, low level graphics API that allows developers to create applications and games with exceptional performance. So blah, 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 blah. That's what it is. This is a free app. And so I gave the download there. It's just bluestacks.com/Mac. And so if it's something that interests you, it's kind of a cool software that allows you to do that. And it takes you into like the Google Play Store there, and you can get different games and things like that.
If you want even older games, there's a free app called DOSBox. Things that ran on the old DOS machines can still be run on modern Macs by using DOSBox. It runs on it emulates an old PCAT, and it does a great job.
Cool. Would you do me a favor? Would you put that in the chat?
Yeah.
Now, if anybody's interested, they can check that out. I personally will want to check that out, but I'm in sharing mode here, so I'll look at that later.
Quick question, Carl, if you don't mind. Are you running that on some of those older machines that you were talking about running Mac OS 8.1, or are you doing that on the modern?
Oh, no, I'm running that under Mojave.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's specifically designed for the modern environment. Now, I don't have a machine that's as new as, well, I have a machine that could run the latest version, but I just haven't updated it yet. But, and I have not tested DOSBox there because I'd rather use it here on this machine where I've got the double screens. But it works great for the things I've tried.
All right.
Okay.
The next thing is product here for you, the Anchor Prime 27,650 milliampere hour power bank. So, I think a lot of people have like little external battery, to charge their iPhones on the go. I know I've got one that I kind of take when I travel that I can charge an iPhone or an iPad. But they really aren't powerful enough if you want to charge like, a MacBook Pro or something. And so that's where this comes in. It's one of the most powerful laptop, as it says here, and I'm quoting this. It's one of the most powerful laptop power banks that you can match with your MacBook. It's a great fit with the top-end 16-inch MacBook Pro, which has a battery rated at around the same watt hours as this power bank. And so attach Apple's USB-C to MagSafe 3 cable to the power, I think it said power bank, and you can utilize one of, basically they've got multiple ports and allow you to charge your MacBook Pro. And so they claim that you can charge your MacBook Pro up to 50% in 28 minutes. So by the way, you can also charge smaller devices with this as well. And you can see some of the specs there. I'm not going to read through all the specs that I put up. And the price for this is $179.99. But I could see where that could be a real handy thing. If you're somebody who is, maybe you're traveling or you're on the go with your laptop constantly and you need to be able to charge and you don't know when you're always going to be able to, plug in and everything. I could see where this could be real handy. And I've got there's just a little quick video to show it to you. And obviously Anchor is a very well-known brand. So, all right. Another little charger here is the Basius Intercore wall charger. And it's kind of cool because this charger will basically expand out of the charger to charge. It's got retractable cables, which I love because I don't know about you guys, but I can't tell you how many things there's cables and they're all getting tangled around stuff. And so I love the idea of the retractable cables. And this wall charger is $69.99. The retractable cables, by the way, are they're about 32 inches long. And so, I mean, obviously that's going to give you, a little bit of leeway there to charge from. And I think I have, no, that was a different thing. Sorry. So it can deliver up to 67 watts of power with one device connected, with 2 or 3 of the ports in use. That'll obviously drop because it's got to, share those. But anyway, I saw this and, this is just a new product coming out and they're USB-C cables. So I thought this looks pretty cool. I might be interested in something like this because I like that idea that they retract when you're not using them. And another product I have for you, if anybody finds that they really need an Ethernet adapter, here's this pluggable 5. Well, first of all, you'll notice it's USB-C port, and it's an Ethernet adapter, and it's pretty small there, and you can just plug in right into your, USB-C port on your computer, and then you just, bam, plug in the Ethernet there. So not that I use Ethernet a whole lot, but, for some reason, if you need one, it's kind of handy. So that's $39.95 on Amazon. And I thought I would mention this because it just happened the other day when I was putting this together, that it was May 6th, 1998, that Steve Jobs announced the iMac. And I thought I would play just a little bit of this for you guys.
Well, today, I'm incredibly pleased to introduce iMac, our consumer product. And iMac comes from the marriage of
You all
the
hear this?
excitement of the internet
Yeah.
with the simplicity of Macintosh. Even though this is a full-blooded Macintosh, we are targeting this for the #1 use that consumers tell us they want a computer for, which is to get on the internet, simply and fast. And that's what this product is targeted for. I also means some other things to us. We are a personal computer company, and although this product is born to network, it also is a beautiful standalone product. We're targeting it also for education. They want to buy these. And it's perfect for most of the things they do in instruction. It's perfect for finding tremendous source of information over the internet. And we hope, as you see the product, it will inspire us all to make even better products in the future. So we think iMac's going to be a really big deal. Now, what should it be? Well, we went out and we looked at all of the consumer products out there. This is a picture of one of the better ones. And we noticed some things about them pretty much universally. The first is they're really slow. They're very slow. They're all using last year's processor. Very, very slow. Second is they've all got pretty crummy displays on them. They're generally 13-inch, a few 14-inch, and the quality of them is very poor. Apple designs all its own displays, so we're used to something much better, but these are pretty bad. Likely no networking on them. Some have it, most don't. Old generation I/O devices. And what that means is they're lower performance and they're harder to use, and most of them aren't, so plug and play. And these things are ugly. So, let me tell you about iMac. We decided to make this thing fast. So we decided to put in a G3 processor running at 233 megahertz. We debated this quite a bit because there were cheaper, slower things we could have used, and we said, no, this has got to be the computer that we want on our desk too. A G3 running at 233, and we didn't forget the cache. It's got a 0.5 megabyte L2 backside cache, and this thing screams, as you'll see in a minute. On displays, we said, what is the largest display that you'd ever want in one of these in a consumer computer? And the answer to us was a 15-inch display running at 1024 by 768. Let's go ahead and build in the best in every product. And let's have our display engineers engineer it, and it's gorgeous. It is an Apple quality display that we are very proud of. Let's go ahead and put a lot of memory in this thing. 32 megabytes standard. It's expandable to 128. 4 gigabyte disk drive, 24x CD-ROM. And let's build in a lot of communications. This thing's got 100 megabit Ethernet as standard. Now why? Because a lot of our education customers want to put these high-speed networks in, and because we're seeing it in homes. Approximately 10% of the homes in Silicon Valley now have class 5 wiring in them. We're starting to see lots of home networks emerging. A fast modem and also 4 megabit infrared built in. You want to beam your digital photographs in from your digital camera, built into every product. We are going to the new generation of I/O. 12 megabit universal serial bus, 2 ports. We're leaving the old Apple I/O behind. Stereo surround sound built into every product, and a great, great keyboard and mouse. Now, this is what they look like today. And I would like to take the privilege of showing you what they're going to look like from today on. This is iMac. Can you go back there and do that again? Go back and come back. Thank you. So if I can get this screen switched over, we've got a wireless camera here, and I'd like to show you what this thing looks like. Come on in. You got to see this thing in person, but I'll do the best I can with video. This is iMac. The whole thing is translucent. You can see into it. It's so cool. We've got stereo speakers on the front. We've got infrared right up here. We've got the CD-ROM drive right in the middle. We've got dual stereo headphone jacks. We got the coolest mouse on the planet right here. Come on around. All of the connectors are inside one beautiful little door here, the Ethernet, the USB stuff. Around the back, we've got a really great handle here. The back of this thing looks better than the front of the other guys, by the way. And then around the side. So let's take one more swing around it so you can see. This is what it looks like. And again, you've got to see one of these things in person. Great.
So there you go. I thought I would just share that with you. It's kind of funny. First, I do miss the old days of Steve Jobs keynotes. And it's funny now when we listen to him talk about the state of the art stuff in this. And but anyway, so hopefully that brings back as many memories for you as it does for me.
Well, today.
All right. And one more thing I thought that would be appropriate to do here at this point. I thought this letter is kind of funny, and I'll read it to you. Dear Mr. Varon, I'm honored that you'd write, but I'm afraid I don't sign autographs. Sincerely, Stephen P. Jobs, Chairman, Board of Directors, with his autograph on it. So I thought that was a kind of funny letter. I don't know if you guys have seen this before.
Yeah. Glenn, I've got an iMac sitting on the table next to me.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Looks
As
very
do
much
I.
like the first model. It's not
Yeah.
it's not the first, but it's recognizably similar.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when those came into schools, and I just remember everybody being blown away by those things because nobody'd ever seen a computer that looked like that before.
Yeah, if anybody wants one, you just look on Facebook Marketplace, and there are a bunch of them for sale in the St. Louis area.
I bet there are. Yeah, it'd be fun to have one just for the, like I said, just for the fun of it, just for the
Yeah.
stuff. I remember having one of the iBooks.
Yeah.
Trying to remember what color mine was. I'm gonna say it was maybe it was blue, but yeah, little clamshell and
I thought
So-
it was funny when Steve Jobs said, and we ask ourselves, what is the largest display anybody would ever want? And it's 15 inches.
I chuckled that as well because now people like my huge screen back here. It's like,
Yeah,
how big can we get it now?
yeah.
So, all right. Well, anyway, there you have there's my goodies for May.
Thanks a lot.
Excellent.
One thing that fits right in with that, there was an early stage in the Mac displays when they would allow up to 5 dead pixels in a screen and passing quality control.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Okay, everybody. Steve's going to talk about numbers.
I shall. Okay. Can you see intro to numbers?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we are live. Okay, I use numbers every day. I like spreadsheets for balancing our checkbook, recording our credit card usage, charitable contributions, gas mileage, passwords, investment portfolio, just a lot of different ways you can use spreadsheets. Numbers is Apple's counterpart to Microsoft Excel. I have experience with both numbers and Excel. Excel has much more functionality, but I have found that anymore, 99% of the time when I need a spreadsheet, numbers does the job. I'll try to keep this presentation simple. First is the easy part. I'll show you how to open numbers and create a new spreadsheet. And then I will point out the parts of the spreadsheet to familiarize you with the terminology. After that, I'll demonstrate some of the formatting capabilities. Next, I'll show you how to write formulas. A formula uses your data to perform calculations. That can be a little complicated when you first try it, but with practice, the logic that goes into it makes a lot of sense. It can even be a little fun, like solving a logic puzzle. And finally, I'll talk about the importance of saving your spreadsheets to an iCloud account. Apple makes it very easy. So first step, creating a spreadsheet, simply click on the numbers icon. The app offers several templates to choose from. I almost always choose blank, which is usually the first one. After you have formatted a spreadsheet in a way that you like, you can save it as your own custom template. Parts of a spreadsheet. When you first create a blank spreadsheet, the layout looks something like this, only without the text and the arrows. At the top of the window, the default name of the new file is untitled. You don't want a bunch of documents all named untitled, untitled 1, untitled 2, so on and so forth. So let's call this file checking account. If I can type. There. Next, notice how the columns are lettered and the rows are numbered. The individual rectangles are cells. Think of each cell as a container for holding numerical values, dates, text, formulas, or whatever. When you click on a cell, as I have done here, the column and row work as a Cartesian coordinate system. The column letter and the row number are the unique identifier for that cell. In this case, it's C3. Here's the C, there's the 3. For example, remember that when you start writing formulas, get used to how these cells are identified. Above the spreadsheet is a field where you can give the table a title. We'll call this checking if you want to. A numbers document can have more than one table, and you can give each table its own title. The tables appear as tabs, and that's what these are up here along the top. That's what I'm using instead of a keynote presentation. Let me talk about comments. Comments are a very useful feature. You select a cell, click on comment, and you get a window open, something noteworthy, and click on done. And you get a little yellow triangle in the upper right corner of the cell, and that tells you there is a note there. If you don't like the note, you can edit it. You can delete it. You can use left and right arrows to jump from one comment to the next. So I have found comments to be very useful. Parts of a spreadsheet, part 2. Notice how the top row and the left column are kind of a medium gray. This means the spreadsheet has a header row and a header column. Headers always remain visible while all the other rows and columns can slide under them. So I've got some text entered here. Look what happened when I use my touchpad. See how they disappear underneath there? Also, they slide underneath the header column. That can be very useful when you have very large spreadsheets and you want to see what your header rows say and the header columns over on the left. Next, we'll talk about formatting. As an example, I'll make a simple spreadsheet for a checking account. The first thing we want to do is, I need to move this, I can see it. If I click on the format button, the inspector opens up. If the inspector is not already visible, then open it up. Get used to the inspector because it's very handy. Now let's enter some text and numbers to make the spreadsheet look like we're keeping a checking account. You can see I've already entered some column headers, date, check number, payer, payee, so on and so forth, like you would have in a checkbook. Let's select a single cell. Let's first one under date, and we'll Now, let me do it this way first. I'll select this cell. I can select more than one cell by holding down the Shift key. If I go down here, I get all the columns and rows that connect these two cells. Notice that they are all adjacent to each other. If I hold down the Command key, I can select cells that are not adjacent. I can edit these all at once. Any text that is in them, the color of the cells, and so on and so forth. I can also select whole columns by picking the letter at the top or a whole row, and I can edit everything in that row or column. Let me select the cell tab over here. On this particular cell, I can change the color. This is under fill. Let's make it a bright yellow. I can change the font. Under text, change it from Helvetica New to whatever that one is. I can change the size of the text. I can make it bold, italicized, or whatever. Now let's enter a few items and format them. I'm going to select this entire column under date, select the cell. This is going to be, oops, lost it. This is going to be my dates, and I want them to be 2-digit day, 2-digit month, and 2-digit year. I pull this down and I have other options. I can include the name of the day of the week or just the year, so on and so forth. I can also include the time of day that I make the entry, but that's not really useful in a checkbook. So I'm going to leave this as 01/05/25 as that format. And if I enter today's date, which is 5/13/25, and hit return, notice it automatically formats it. So let's enter a few items like we would in a checkbook. Our check number is 1001. Our payer payee, let's say my nephew Jimmy Jones just graduated from high school, and we're going to send him a check for his graduation. And I'm in a generous mood, so I'm going to make that check for $100. And notice the debit, it has 2 decimal points, dollars and cents. And that is over here under cell. Pull down number and decimals, and I can increase the number of decimals if I want to. You can also change how a negative number is formatted. Usually you use a minus sign. You can put them in parentheses or no sign at all, whatever. Let me get rid of this. And let me enter another one. 5, 3. I have any check number. And this is my Visa. And my Visa bill was $225.67. Do one more. 5, 7. Joe Smith, I sold him my lawnmower. And for that, he paid me $100. You can change the borders. I showed you that before. Also, you can sort your entries. Let's pick up column A. These are out of order. I've got the 13th, the 3rd, and the 7th. And let's go over here to where it says organize. Oops. Zoom is interfering. There we go. Organize. sort. I'm going to pick the date column, and it arranges them all in chronological order. Now let's get into formulas. What's the sound?
Please, somebody's mute themselves. There's some sort of interference.
Yeah, somebody has their TV on in the background that just needs to mute.
Crouched beside it silently, turning it in his hands like a mechanic examining a busted bond. I stood behind
Robert, I believe that might be you.
That took it. That did it. Okay, thanks. Okay, now we're going to get into the best part about computer spreadsheets, and that's formulas. Numbers is capable of doing statistics, trigonometry, engineering, and all kinds of other functions, most of which I have rarely used. This demonstration will just use addition and subtraction. So first, we're going to create a formula that shows the balance forward to give us our beginning balance. We had a credit of $645. I will select this cell right here. Formulas always begin with an equal sign. So I type that, and a little window opens up, and it's always in the way, which is very annoying. But my balance is this amount right here, and I will select it and hit the check mark, or I can also hit the return key, and it shows a balance of $654. If I go over here and I change that credit, the balance also changes to $700. The next line, I want to start with this balance, subtract the 50, add the credit, which is blank, and give me a running balance. So I'm going to say equals this minus 50 plus this cell, and that gives me $650. This always refers to the cell above it and the cells to the left. So if I copy this cell and go here and paste formula results, oops, there, that's what I wanted. I've got 650 minus 225.67, and that gives me this running balance. If I copy this and paste this, that gives me 524.33. I can do that on the line, on down this column, and I can maintain my running balance. Now let's dig a little deeper. Suppose we want to do our credit cards. Before, we just had one single debit column and one single credit column. Well, I've got an Apple card, I've got a Visa card, I got a MasterCard, and we want to maintain a running balance for all of my credit cards, but I also want to maintain a balance for each individual card. We'll start off by doing the running balance over here, which equals this plus this plus this minus this, whoops, wrong one, this minus this minus this. And I have a total of $658, which is the sum of these three numbers. Now, just as I did before, on this line, I want to start with an equal sign, and this time I'm going to select the balance above it plus this plus this plus this minus this minus this and minus this. And there's my balance. I can copy this. I can select these cells down here and this is my running balance. I always know what my total credit card charges by looking at this last line here. Now you notice in my Apple Card, I have a balance right here. It is the sum of this column minus the sum of this column. Same thing with the Visa. I've left the MasterCard blank because that's what I'm going to do right now. Equals the sum of that minus the sum of that. Did you see how it automatically filled in all the cells? It's a range of cells, and that's indicated by a little colon in between it. Click on the check mark, and there's my balance for my MasterCard. If I were to add up these three numbers, I would get 483.49.
Steve, can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
Can you show the formula bar there? Because I didn't see, like, so people can actually see the actual formula.
Yeah. When you select a cell with a formula in it, notice how all these cells are highlighted. That means they are included in the formula. You can read the formula down here at the bottom, but if you want to edit the formula, double click it. That's what this is right here. There's all those cells that I added and all the cells that I subtracted.
Also, there was a question in the chat a little while ago about your large red cursor, and wanted to know how you got that big red cursor.
Oh, it's in accessibility.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can choose the color, the outline, and how big it is. Oh. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is save it to iCloud. Get rid of that. If you don't have an iCloud account already, then here is the link that you need. I strongly recommend that you create an iCloud account, especially if you have more than one Apple device. You get 5 gigabytes of storage for free. More storage is reasonably priced. I have the 200 gigabyte plan, and that cost me $3 a month. If you have more than one device, then you can log into the same iCloud account on all of your devices. Then you can access your spreadsheets from any of them. If you make a change on one device, then within a few seconds, it automatically appears on the other device. Syncing between devices is very practical when, for example, you go out to eat or when you're traveling and you don't have your Mac with you, but you can keep track of your credit card charges or whatever on your phone. It's saved to the iCloud and it'll just save you a lot of work. So that's everything that I covered. Are there any more questions? I'll just say it, numbers is a great way to keep good financial records. If you are inexperienced in creating a spreadsheet, it can be a challenge, but once you have it set up, it's very easy to use. And if you want to create your own spreadsheets and you would like some tutoring, then contact me through the GAMUG list email and I'll get back with you. Or go to the GAMUG Facebook page and send me a private message. And you can set it up so I can see your screen and I can talk you through how to set up your spreadsheet. So any questions, any comments?
Very quick question, Steve. Did you have spreadsheets saved in iCloud a few years ago when you traveled to Scotland?
Yes.
And you were able to keep up on all your balances even on the other side of the pond?
Oh, yes. Yeah. If you can get on the internet, then you can get to iCloud.
Steve, I know, like I still use Excel, and I know, just for everybody there who maybe aren't as familiar with it, while Excel has a little more functionality and you've used both extensively, how would you compare using the two of them?
I used Excel when I worked. I got pretty good at it. when I retired, well, when I first got my first Mac, I had Excel on it. I knew a guy whose wife worked for Microsoft, and she got me the whole package, PowerPoint and Word and Excel for a really cheap price. And I liked it. But now you have to, I believe you have to subscribe. You have to save your spreadsheets to the Microsoft cloud, and that is a subscription.
You can do either. You can either be subscribed to Microsoft 365 or you can buy the standalone software.
Yeah, well, how would that coordinate with your phone?
I put the phone app on your, have the app on your phone.
Oh, yeah. That functionality, the syncing, is built into Apple products. As I said at the beginning, Numbers does virtually everything that I want. I don't need to do statistical analysis of my credit card spending, all the things that Excel can do. If you got a user manual for Excel, it would be the size of an unabridged dictionary. Numbers would be a good sized pamphlet. It's just a lot simpler. It's easier to use. I think Numbers is a little more intuitive.
It's
Excel,
certainly more elegant.
Excel has some shortcuts built into it that I miss. Such as selecting how to navigate across the screen. Excel has some great shortcut keys that Numbers does not have, but I've gotten used to not having them, so it's no big deal. That's it.
Cool, Steve.
Did I put you to sleep?
No.
No, thank you.
Like I said, I'm glad to help if you really want to try it out. I just need for you to share your screen so I can talk you through it.
Okay. Glenn, is that AI video? Is that, how long is that?
Let me look here. Hold on. Couple things. Let me just say one thing, by the way, and I'm putting it in the chat. And this was Mark asked before about making notes into web pages. And there is a little, it's called montaigne.io. And I just put that in the chat there. So you can take your Apple Notes and you can make those into a little simple website. So that'll publish those. So that take a look at that. As far as I want to, let's see, Dave, let me just double check before I give you this. I believe, hold on, let me check. I've got the right. Okay, yeah, pulling it up. As far as BlueStacks, Dave, I'm going to put this in the chat as well. That is bluestacks.com/Mac. So that is the link there. So as far as, let me just double check this. Hold on, sorry. It's about 22 minutes.
Well, that could work. You want to start it?
Sure. So I've got this video that I wanted to share with you all. I don't know how much, I know we all hear a lot about Apple Intelligence, but I found this video that I thought was a pretty decent video, a little short masterclass on using Apple Intelligence on your phone. And so I thought I would share that with you all. And John, I know our little discussion we had last week, we can play this, and then if we want, we can talk a little bit about that if we have time. So let me share this with you guys. think I hate that. I accidentally hid my PowerPoint presentation, and when you hide it, when you go to share, it's not there. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so I came across this video. I thought it was pretty interesting by Nikios Molina. And I thought he was doing a nice job of really explaining some of the Apple Intelligence stuff that is out there and how to use it. And so I wanted to share this with you guys.
Apple Intelligence is extremely useful across the ecosystem, from the iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, and even the Apple Vision Pro. That's why in this video, I'll show you everything that Apple Intelligence can do to your iPhone so you can learn and use all of these incredible useful features. I had the incredible opportunity to preview some exclusive features that Apple revealed to me in an Apple experience I attended. Hit subscribe because we're about to reach 400,000 subscribers. It's going to be an incredibly in-depth video, so there's timestamps all across this video if you just want to pick the parts that you're most interested in. Without further ado, let's get started.
So yes, I'm here in Berlin at an Apple experience to learn more about Apple Intelligence, but more importantly, examples on how we should be using Apple Intelligence.
Now, the first main feature about Apple Intelligence are all of the new upgrades in Siri. Siri is way smarter, has context awareness, and the way you speak to Siri can also feel more natural, including mistakes. What's the weather like in London? I mean, Paris. As you can see, I just did a mistake by saying London, but it's now giving me the weather for Paris. And now it's got context awareness, so you can do things like, how about in New York? So you can see, I didn't need to say what was the weather like in New York. It already understood that I'm asking about the weather. And now directly from there, you can ask things like, set up a timer for 8 minutes. And just like that, it's now setting up an 8-minute timer. Now, as I said, Siri is now smarter than ever. And I'm doing like this because it's not directly with Siri. Because now if you go inside of settings and tap on Apple Intelligence, if you scroll to the bottom, you'll see ChatGPT. Because yes, ChatGPT is now integrated directly with Siri. So you simply sign in, you can have the pro version or the free version of ChatGPT. And every time you ask Siri something that Siri doesn't know how to answer it, it will ask ChatGPT for the answer. When is Kendrick Lamar coming to Barcelona? As you can see, Siri doesn't know. So it's asking me, do you want to search the web or do you want to use ChatGPT? We can tap on ChatGPT. As you can see, it is working with ChatGPT now, and it will tell me exactly the day that Kendrick Lamar and SZA will perform in Barcelona, which is July 30th, which by the way, I'm actually going to that concert. You can ask Siri with ChatGPT anything now. Give me a recipe for vegan Alfredo. I'll need to use ChatGPT to write that. Go ahead. Working with ChatGPT. And the cool thing about this is this recipe, there's actually this copy icon on the top right. If you tap that, you can obviously paste that recipe directly from ChatGPT using Siri directly to your Apple Notes. Can you write me a 5-day itinerary of my friends that are coming to Barcelona? It's about like 5 days. So you can see I spoke to Siri more natural in a way that previously with Siri, it would just not understand me. It's a mom, a dad, and a son, so I like, you know, restaurants and activities that the 15-year-old son would also enjoy. ChatGPT can also talk to you back, as you can see. Here you go. 5-day itinerary, day 3, day 4. This was previously never obviously possible with Siri. So even though you might think that Siri needs improvements, it's incredible that ChatGPT is directly integrated with Siri. If you don't want to talk to Siri like we've always done via your voice, you can now simply double tap on the bottom and type to Siri now. It will give you a couple recommendations. For example, let's tap on send an email. Who do you want to email? You can do everything by text once again. You can tap on Nikias. Okay, I want this email. And what's the subject? You can directly do it from there. And once again, I'm not using my voice. I'm doing it directly from typing with Siri. There's a lot of instances, maybe you're at the subway and you don't want to talk to Siri all the time. I'm really glad that this feature is here.
Now, we've talked about ChatGPT integration inside of Siri, but something that I didn't know about as well is that you don't need to log into a ChatGPT account to use the free version of ChatGPT inside of Siri, which is incredible for a bunch of reasons, but most importantly in terms of privacy. So if you ask it something, for example, how long is my flight from Berlin to Barcelona, I can use ChatGPT for that, and since this isn't logged in, it will show me exactly that answer without being logged in.
The next feature that I love using with Apple Intelligence is visual intelligence. Now, if you've got an iPhone 16, for example, just by holding on camera control on your iPhone, visual intelligence will open up. And it allows you to simply snap a photo of an object, for example, the C-3PO Lego minifigure, and it will give you two different options, ask or search. If you ask it, it will open up ChatGPT so you can ask details about the object. For example, how much is this Lego Chrome minifigure cost? How much is its value right now? Working with ChatGPT, this Lego Chrome Gold C-3PO was released in 2007 and it's estimated around $3,000. So it can give you different information. It will even give you the source information if you want to. Visual intelligence will also allow you to search with Google. So I can snap a photo of this card right here and it will provide me a bunch of different searches of the specific object. And then I can tap on that link and have more information about this object. For example, I can buy this card if I want to directly on eBay. Now there's obviously so many more use cases for it. Maybe you're out in the street and you see a jacket that you like. You can snap a quick photo of it using visual intelligence and it will give you a bunch of links for you to buy that jacket from. Maybe you want to know a breed of a dog that you see out in the street. There's obviously so much more that visual intelligence can do. So ChatGPT and Google being integrated directly with these Apple Intelligence features makes it extremely useful. Now there's a couple ways to activate visual intelligence. So if you've got an iPhone 16 or iPhone 16 Pro, well, you can simply hold on camera control and it will open up. But what happens if you've got an iPhone 16e or iPhone 15 Pro? Well, now you can activate visual intelligence inside of your control center. As you can see, just by tapping on this, it will open up visual intelligence, or you can even add it inside of your lock screen. We can tap on the plus and add visual intelligence. So directly from the lock screen, you're gonna have this little button right here and it will open up visual intelligence. So that's it for Siri. Let's talk about the Photos app now because it also gets a bunch of Apple Intelligence features, and one of my favorite ones is cleanup. How many times has someone photobombed your photo and you just want to get rid of it? Well, now using the new cleanup tool inside of the Photos app, you can now simply circle an object just like that. Let's say I want to get rid of this boat, which is bothering me in the background of the image. Just like that, I can get rid of it, and it actually did really well in removing that object. It can help you remove all sorts of things. For example, let's take a look at this selfie that me and Shenia took right here. Well, Apple Intelligence will automatically detect the people, so I can simply tap on the people and they should start disappearing. Now, obviously, depending on the photo, it will do a better or worse job at it, but let's take a look at these two people right here. It got rid of them pretty well. There's obviously a little bit of mistake if you really zoom in, but if you take a look at the zoom out, you can see that Apple Intelligence totally removed those two people and the behind of that photo. It actually looks quite great now. Check out this example. This photo is beautiful only if I was by myself in this image. There's a couple people ruining the shot right here, so I can tap clean up and I can circle this girl right here and I can get rid of her. And in this instance, it just works so incredibly well. Let's get rid of this guy as well. Boom, just like that. I can select these towels right here, which are highly bothering me. Boom, it got rid of that super well. I can tap on that person. All right, let's get rid of these guys as well. You can be a little bit rough with it as well. Boom, it's working so well now. Boom, it got rid of that. Let's get rid of all these tourists right here. I don't want you guys here. Get out. And let's get rid of this person as well. And boom, just like that. Ooh, who threw plastic at a beach? Come on, let's get rid of that as well. Look at the before and after. Look at that. It feels like I'm with Apple at the beach all by myself. I absolutely love this photo now. It's something that before it wasn't really usable because of how many people there were at the beach. This is actually a nice photo now. I like it. Now inside of the Photos app, if you go to Memories and swipe to the right, you'll see this new Create a Memory Movie. And Memory Movies is also a brand new Apple Intelligence features, which allows you to simply describe a memory and it will create a custom little movie of that memory that you thought of. Now the cool thing about Apple's AI, Apple Intelligence, is that it knows everything about you. For example, it knows who Nikki is, who Chenia is, it knows who my mom is, it knows who my dog is. So I can tap on Nikki is and I can put with dogs at the beach. So you can put location, you can put people. Your iPhone knows everything about you. And the best thing about Apple Intelligence is its privacy as well. So you can tap search and it will analyze my entire library of all the photos that have Nickies and dogs in them and create a little movie. Now it's currently analyzing the entire photo library and it's doing everything on device. And there you go. My partner and my dog, that's how the iPhone is calling this little movie. Let's turn the volume up. Vintage tea. There you go. It's now creating a custom film. Now I can change the music if I want to with the Apple Music subscription. There's a couple different suggestions depending on the prompt that you gave. It will give you a couple different ones. For example, What Was I Made For by Billie Eilish. You can also change the filter and the look. Let's say I want a brighter look for these images. And I can also pass through different templates. For example, Black and White and Cardigan by Taylor Swift, or Die With a Smile and has a warm, bright feel. You can choose any of them. Once you're done, you can simply tap play. And if you tap on these three dots right here and tap on share, you'll be able to export that video and send it to a friend. Great for birthdays. You can create a little movie with you and your friend and send it as a birthday present. And Apple Intelligence will do everything. You won't need to do any fancy edits. The Photos app will do all the editing for you. Now, the search tab of the Photos app has also been improved. Search is now smarter and feels more familiar because you can use standard language, for example, lunch with Nickies, and it will extract all of the photos that Chenia has had with Nickies. Check it out. A cool trick that not a lot of people know about is that you can also search sounds inside of the Photos app. For example, you can search up applause and you see this little sound icon right here. You can tap on it and it will search all the videos. Check it out. As you can see, people are applauding and it automatically knows that. So Apple Intelligence makes it very easy to find the photos and the videos that you are exactly looking for with the improved search tab. Apple Intelligence also has a couple image generation tools. For example, Genmoji. There's obviously tons of emojis that you can choose from the iOS keyboard, but I'm sure you don't always find the one that you need. So now with Genmoji, just by typing in a prompt, it will generate that prompt into an emoji. Just imagine you're texting someone about some random thing. For example, I don't know, I'm so full I could literally fly with so much sushi. Imagine you just said that. You could type in flying sushi and boom, flying sushi with wings. And if you don't like it, you can scroll to the right and find the one that you need. It will generate a bunch of different ones as long as you keep swiping on the right. Let's tap on this one. This one looks pretty good. It will add it. And what's cool about it is that it will save directly inside of the emoji keyboard. This is the one that I made of a fried egg. This is the one that I made of a dancing avocado. Now, what's nice about this is that it also works with anything, right? So we have a chow chow, for example, chow chow dog. Let's type in chow chow dog, chow chow dog. And it will generate a custom emoji of any dog that you can think of. There you go. Come on, isn't that incredible? It will also show you a couple different colors. Let's say you want a white one. Ours is actually like this color, which is actually a beautiful emoji, by the way. I'm sending this to me right now.
Okay, so here's a fun activity. I've got 2 dice right here, and I'm gonna, twist them around and see what comes up with to see what I'm gonna create a Genmoji with. Are you ready? I got a cheetah as a scientist. So now I'm typing in cheetah as scientist and look at Apple Genmoji. Are you ready? There it is. That is a cheetah as a scientist.
Genmoji also works with people that you know of. For example, myself, Nickies, dancing. Let's create a custom emoji of that. And from there, it will ask us for a starting point. So it will basically be like, which one looks like Nickies more? We can tap on this one, tap on done. And now it will create a dancing Nickies emoji, me, like a me emoji, since the iPhone has access to our entire photo library. And there it is. There is me dancing. Once again, you can have a couple different variations. You can also be like Nickies walking, chow, chow, dog. Boom, there's me walking a Chow Chow dog. I can tap add, and once again, add it to my keyboard and send.
Now, here's something that I learned about Apple Genmoji. We obviously all know that you can generate custom emojis and you can send them as a standard emoji in iMessage, but something that I personally didn't know is that you can actually send them as iMessage tapbacks right here. Just by holding on a message, you can just swipe to the right with this custom emoji, and you can use any emoji that you want. For example, this Genmoji right here from the giraffes with sunglasses, you tap that, and automatically it's been added as a tapback. You can also save it as a sticker, which is pretty cool, and you can just drop it around and just boom, just like that. Let's say you want to add this cat in this iMessage, and you can just flood the chat with Genmojis.
With Apple Intelligence, you also get a brand new app, and that is Image Playground, allowing you to generate custom images. The app is very easy to use. It will give you different suggestions of things you can ask it to do. It also has access to your photo library, so we can tap on Nikias, and then we can give him context. For example, birthday, and now we can be like, at the beach. Celebrating the birthday at the beach. You can give Image Playground as much information as possible. It just generated an image. There's also different sketch style. For example, my favorite one is personally animation. It's the one that's funnier. Look how funny I look. Oh my gosh. Do I look like this in real life? I hope not. Once you're done, you can tap add. This is a great way to send fun images for someone's birthday once again. You can get quite creative with these. I mean, look at this sketch style from Chenya. I feel like this one looks great and it's not as funny as this one. You can then save all of these images and save it to your photo gallery or just send it to someone.
Okay, so that was definitely a lot of fun. We did a terrarium, and then using the image one on the iPad, we already knew about that, right? But something that I didn't know, and you probably didn't either, is that using the image wand, you can circle objects, for example. We all knew about that, but something that I personally didn't know is that you can also select words, and it will also transform that into an image, so to make that illustration more accurate.
Now, enough of image generation. One of my favorite ways to use Apple Intelligence is with writing tools. Writing tools is all over iOS. It's in the keyboard, it's in Mail, it's in Notes, it's in Messages. Let's take a look on how it works inside of Apple Notes. So it will appear right here in the bottom with this icon right here, and it will open up writing tools. One of my favorite ways to use it is with this little icon in the bottom, which is Compose. If you tap on it, it will compose it, obviously, with ChatGPT. So you can ask ChatGPT to write you anything as you would, but directly built into iOS. Write 2 paragraphs to my boss on apologizing on why I was late to work yesterday. You can tap on search and boom, it will start composing that email. ChatGPT is requesting additional details. What's your boss's name? Let's write Tim Cook, just for the sake of this video. Reason for being late? I don't have one, so make it up. Let's tap on update. And there you go. Dear Tim Cook, I sincerely apologize for being late to work. It wrote me an entire little document on why I was late to work. But obviously writing tools does so much more than that. You can describe changes, for example, make it way shorter and feel more natural speaking. Tap search and it will do all the requests that we wanted to do. Boom, from an entire paragraph, it did it to like literally 2 sentences. Boom, just like that. It also gives you a couple of templates of things that you can do. You can proofread an entire document to look up for mistakes. You can rewrite, you can make it sound more friendly, professional, or concise. You can summarize an entire document or turn this into key points, turn it into list, or turn it into a table. So let's take our vegan Alfredo recipe that we asked Siri to do before. We can tap on this and turn it into a table, for example. And boom, just like that, it added the entire recipe into a table. Smart Replies is also new with Apple Intelligence, which basically gives you a suggested replies pop-up above your keyboard. It works in the Messages and inside of the Mail app. This is one of those features that I use on the Apple Vision Pro so much, because on the Apple Vision Pro, typing is a little bit annoying. So Apple Intelligence giving you options on what to type, which by the way is usually correct, makes it just very handy. But once again, it's available across all platforms, including the iPhone. One of those features that I use constantly is Summarize, and it allows me to summarize all across the platform, from email, from Mail, Safari, and Messages. Let's take this email, for example, that feels quite long. I can tap on Summarize, and it will take a look at that entire email and give me a quick summary. Monthly statements for the last quarter are available for Revolut Security Zero, blah, 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 blah. Summarize in Safari can be really handy for articles. So if you tap on Show Reader, it will give you this summarize icon, which if you tap on it, it will give you a quick summary of this entire article right there inside of Safari. So if you read a lot of articles, being able to summarize websites is extremely handy. The voice memo also gets new features. Let's take this voice memo that I just recorded as an example. I can tap on View Transcript. I just did this voice memo and it automatically transcripted everything, which is quite handy. I can tap on Copy Transcript and once again, add it inside of my Apple Notes. Do this, writing tools, it's called kind of connect. The transcript feature is incredibly useful for college. If you want to record a lecture, it will transcribe everything, copy that, put it into writing tools, summarize it, put it into key points. So you can technically summarize lessons in class automatically with your iPhone or iPad. This feature is not available in the EU, but you can now also record phone calls and then it will grab that recording and put it into Apple Notes. So you can transcribe that once again, summarize. So maybe you're having a call with your boss, you can, have all of that call recorded and then summarize everything that you need. Now let's talk about notifications and focus because there's a lot of improvements here. There's now a new focus mode called Reduce Interruption. This will basically allow AI to figure out what's important to you and will mute the rest. The best way in order to make it work is to use it because the more you use it, the more it will learn from you. If you go inside of settings and then tap on notifications, you're going to see two Apple Intelligence features. The first one is prioritize notifications. So if you've got tons of notifications in your lock screen, with prioritized notifications, it will prioritize the one that, once again, Apple Intelligence thinks it's important to you. Oh, check it out. There you go. This is a priority notifications. This isn't planned whatsoever. It's crazy that Apple Intelligence's priority notifications actually got this right. I'm currently in the priority focus mode, as you just saw, and we were actually waiting for this message. So it worked. I actually needed to know this, so it's crazy that it just worked in real time. So with prioritized notifications, you can deactivate the ones that you just never want to be notified for. The best way that I've seen this work is just turning all of them off and then turning on messages, WhatsApp, maybe Instagram. And then the second new feature is summarize notification. Now, if we scroll down in Notification Center, as you can see, Apple Intelligence is currently summarizing messages. This is a WhatsApp group. Inside of here, there's 6 messages and it will group all of them and give you a quick summary. Same for Gmail. It's giving us 3 different emails, one from Samsung, funny, and it will give you a quick summary of everything. Don't forget that this isn't always 100% accurate. Always make sure to read your emails and your messages. There's a lot of people online that have posted a bunch of crazy stuff of what this summarize feature has told them. In my opinion, it's worked surprisingly well. Some of the summaries are quite funny, but it usually does the job pretty well, at least in my opinion. If you've had a funny story within this summarize feature, make sure to let us know down below in the comments. So that's everything that you need to know about Apple Intelligence. If you learned a lot from this video, you could definitely hit subscribe or you could watch more of my content right here, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
All right. So I know he moved a little quick there, but I thought it was just a nice summary over some of the Apple Intelligence features. Don't know if any of you guys are using those or not. I use some of them, although I have found that the Genmoji thing cannot make me an emoji that looks like me. It just fails. So I don't know. So anyway, there you have it.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness didn't like that. Too much for you too quick.
No. Emoji about you.
Oh, okay. When you're as good looking as I am, it's hard to replicate,
Yeah, right.
John, did you want to comment on that? I know we had our little conversation about AI last week.
I'm trying to think of the term. For several years and over several iterations, or new versions of the iPhone and iOS, we heard these terms. Machine learning, I think, was the one that was used the most. And I was just commenting at the officers' meeting that Apple Intelligence has grown from those terms that we were hearing, at least in terms of the iPhone functionality, now for several years. I don't know that you hear the term, machine learning or anything like that at like a WWDC very much. Instead, you hear Apple Intelligence. I just thought that it was interesting that what is now being touted as Apple Intelligence really has been around for several years, clearly not as well developed as it has recently become, but just noting that this is not something that just came out of the blue. This is something that's been building for some time. I would say that it really got a turbocharge with the onset of the M series processors in the Macs. I think that's where it really got going, and with that processing power, the ability of Apple's ability to create intelligent features in notes and in a lot of other things, that got it started. It has accelerated recently, obviously, to what we just saw, but it's not something that just came out of the blue. It's actually been developing for some time, and I just thought it was interesting to note that that's a historian in me, I guess. I just thought it was interesting to note that the basic ideas, although not the terminology, and certainly not the sophistication, have been around for some time. So I just wanted to sort of put it in historical context, I guess.
Okay, thanks, John.
Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And Glenn, you'll send
By
me
the
your
way,
goodies.
our new gentleman who joined us, Mark, there, I don't know if you guys saw in the chat, he said he had to take off and thanked us. So
Well, thanks,
hopefully,
Glenn. Thanks, Steve. And
Thank
thanks,
you,
everybody.
Good evening.
all right. We'll see you guys next month.
Appreciate it.
See you next month.
Bye-bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.